Hey everyone, my name is FlagonHG, and this is the video of my attempts to Nuzlocke Pokemon Emerald with only Grass-type Pokemon, using hard Nuzlocke rules. If you don't know what a Nuzlocke is, check out my first video where I break it down in detail. But in the interest of time, let's jump straight into the rules of this challenge. 1. If a Pokemon ever faints in battle, it is considered dead. I must immediately release it or permabox it for the rest of my playthrough. And 2, I can only catch Pokemon from each route of the game, and it must be the first Grass-type Pokemon that I find. The one exception to this will be Pokemon used exclusively for HMs. The next set of rules are considered hard Nuzlocke rules, to make the run more difficult. 3. Items cannot be used in battle. No potions, no X items. Held items, however, are allowed. 4. I cannot level any of the Pokemon I use past the next gym leader's highest leveled Pokemon, until the start of that gym battle. If a Pokemon exceeds that level accidentally, it must be boxed until the next gym badge is obtained. And 3, battle mode must be on set for the whole run, meaning that I do not get free switches following the defeat of an enemy Pokemon. So, those are the rules of the challenge. Let's talk grass types. Grass type Pokemon aren't the worst types of Pokemon, but they certainly aren't the best. Grass types generally provide great support with moves like Sleep Powder and Leech Seed, but when it comes to damaging moves, their move pools are usually pretty shallow. Game Freak did change this in later games with the introduction of moves like Seed Bomb and Wood Hammer, but in Generation 3, grass types get a pretty raw deal. Look at Gloom's move pool, for example. Its highest damaging move until level 44 is Acid, a physical move with a base 40 power. A shallow move pool is going to be a pretty universal problem for every grass type that I have access to. And on top of that, grass types are weak to fire, flying, poison, ice, and bug type attacks, 3 of which are the preferred typing of gym leaders or Elite Four members in Pokemon Emerald. So this should be fun. In the Hoenn National Dex, there are 10 fully evolved grass types: Sceptile, Ludicolo, Shiftry, Breloom, Vileplume, Blossom, Roselia, Crawdadly, Cacturne, and Tropius. Unfortunately, Roselia is unavailable in Pokemon Emerald, and I can only get either Vileplume or Blossom due to something called the Species Clause. The Species Clause is a common Nuzlocke addendum that states that you cannot use more than one Pokemon in the same evolution line. So if I catch an Oddish on Route 110, I cannot catch another Oddish on Route 117, or even a Gloom on Route 121. So that leaves me with 8 possible encounters. If more than 2 Pokemon die, I'll be left with an incomplete team, which means that every battle counts. Let's see how it goes. Naturally, I start my journey by picking Treecko as my starter. Treecko is probably the worst of the 3 starters, but Sceptile is fast, he's relatively strong, and he does have niche access to Leaf Blade, which is the strongest grass-type attack in the game that isn't Petal Dance or Solar Beam. I name him Geico. After beating my rival May and her Torchic, I get Pokeballs and access to my first 2 encounters. On Route 102, I catch a Lotad and name her Allstate. In Petalburg Woods, I get a Shroomish and I name him Farmers. After some training, where Allstate evolves into a Lombre, I take on the Rock-type gym leader Roxanne. Naturally, this is pretty easy. Her Geodudes go down to 1 Absorb apiece from Allstate. Her ugly little child does take a little bit more work. Absorb is a very weak 20 base power, but eventually she goes down and I get the first gym badge. From here, it's a pretty straight shot to the Fighting-type gym leader Brawly in Dewford Town. On the way, Geico evolves into Grovyle. After hitting the level cap, I decide to take on Brawly, and well, to put it simply, I grossly overestimate my damage output. Geico does basically nothing to Brawly's Machop as he starts setting up Bulk Up, and then he goes down soon after. Allstate comes in and manages to take out Machop, but then Meditite comes out, and because I'm an idiot, I let him hit a Focus Punch, which absolutely just destroys Allstate. Farmers comes out and takes out Meditite, but he's no match for Makuhita. Well, that's attempt 1. This was a good reality check. I needed to take things a bit more seriously. In attempt 2, I spent the first part of the run brainstorming how to beat Brawly. The answer comes when I remember that after delivering the letter to Steven, Mr. Briney will take you to Slateport City even before you've beaten Brawly, which means that I can get access to 1 more encounter, an Oddish on Route 110. I name her State Farm. While she's by no means a powerhouse, State Farm does learn Sleep Powder, and her poison typing means that she resists fighting type moves. With a new strategy in mind, I go and take on Brawly again. This time, I start with Allstate to take on the Machop. My plan is to use Flash to make his Pokemon miss over and over again. What I didn't factor in was that Flash has a 70% accuracy, meaning that I miss quite a bit. Machop manages to take out Allstate, but then Geico comes in and kills Machop. Meditite comes out, and as long as I just keep attacking, Meditite can't get any hits in with Focus Punch. Makuhita comes out, so I switch to Farmers to set up a Leech Seed, and then I switch to State Farm to start taking hits. I use Sleep Powder to put Makuhita to sleep, and then I just whittle him down, finally getting the second gym badge. Before I can get to the third gym, I have to complete the only difficult rival fight in this game. Here, Mei has a Wingull and a Combusken, both of which have super effective moves to everyone in my party. In preparation for this battle, State Farm evolves into Gloom, and Farmers evolves into Breloom. Breloom is an incredibly powerful fighting type with a very high attack stat. I can buff this attack stat even higher with Bulk Up. Additionally, Breloom learns Mach Punch, a priority move that allows me to knock out speedy Pokemon before they can even move. This is going to be an incredibly vital strategy going forward. Unfortunately, with Breloom's secondary fighting type also comes a ×4 weakness to flying type moves, making this a tough strategy against any moderately strong flying type. Fortunately for me, Wingull is not a moderately strong flying type. Farmers can take a wing attack as she uses Bulk Up. Headbutt kills Wingull, and then Mei sends out Combusken. Here I go for a Headbutt, which leaves Combusken with a Sliver as it counters with a Blaze boosted Ember, knocking out State Farm. That was really stupid. I take out the rest of Mei's team with Geico, but without Farmers, I really don't think that I can beat some of the harder battles in the rest of the run. So I reset and it's back to square one again. In attempt 3, I'm way too reckless and I accidentally run into an optional trainer battle who has a Nincada that kills Geico before the first gym. I decide to reset right there. And then in attempt 4, well, we don't really talk about attempt 4. That was the gas leak attempt. In attempt 5, I actually catch a Seedot on Route 102 instead of a Lotad. That's a 1% encounter rate, but I'm not really complaining. I name him Nationwide. I've refined my Brawly strategy so that I can easily handle him without losing anyone. Once I get back to Mei, I lead with State Farm, Sleep Powder the Wingull, and then switch into Farmers. I set up 2 Bulk Ups this time and proceed to headbutt through her entire team. Much better. The Electric-type gym leader Watson is up next, but he is not too tough. My plan is to Sleep Powder his first Pokemon with State Farm and then set up Bulk Ups with Farmers. He sends out Voltorb, so holy shit, he just used Self-Destruct. That was really scary. But the plan is unchanged. Sleep Powder with State Farm, a few Bulk Ups on Farmers, and that's all she wrote. Third gym badge is mine. After this, I get my 5th team member, Alambre on Route 114. I of course name her
Allstate.
But now I face the part of the game that I was dreading from the moment that I came up with this challenge. The 4th gym is Flannery's Fire-type gym. And in Emerald, every single one of her Pokemon knows Overheat, a 150 base power fire move. This is really bad news for my grass types. Now you might be thinking, you just got Alambre, he's part water type. Well yeah, but let's take a look at Lambre's moveset. 0 damaging water type moves until level 49. I spent hours brainstorming what to do here. I eventually landed on a revised Bulk Up strategy. The reason that a straight up Bulk Up strategy isn't great is because of Flannery's Torkoal. It's an absolute tank with an incredibly high defense stat, and it would easily knock out Farmers with a single Overheat. With some quick calculations, I found out that Farmers would need 5 Bulk Ups to one-shot Torkoal with Return, which is the strongest move it can learn at this point in the game. So somehow I need to Bulk Up 5 times before being taken out by an Overheat. Fortunately, Flannery starts with a Numel, which is much easier to set up on. I start with Gloom, who I know can tank 1 Overheat. Learning from the Flash fiasco in attempt 2, I Sweet Scent to lower Numel's evasion, and then I hit it with a Sleep Powder, which now has 100% accuracy. I switch to Allstate and start hitting flashes. It's still not 100% accurate, but it's pretty close. After hitting 6 flashes, I switch back to State Farm and put the Numel to sleep. I switch to Farmers, and then Numel wakes up instantly. Fortunately, he misses Overheat. On the next turn, I start setting up Bulk Up, and he hits an Overheat. Farmers goes down. And with that, my hopes of beating this battle are over. I don't even try to finish the battle. It's back to square one, again. In the throes of defeat, I realize the errors of my way. With a few tweaks to my strategy, I can make the battle with Flannery relatively foolproof, save for a couple potential critical hits. Now that this is my 6th time going through the first part of the game, it goes relatively quickly. I catch a Lotad on Route 102 again, so I pick up Seedot on Route 117. Before I get to my second attempt at Flannery, I want to talk about something that is usually completely overlooked in most casual playthroughs: effort values. If you've ever looked into competitive Pokemon, you'll probably know all about effort values, or EVs for short. Basically, EVs are points given to different stats when your Pokemon defeats other Pokemon. The more EVs you have in a particular stat, the higher that stat will be. In normal playthroughs, the game is so easy that you don't really need to take the time to consider which EVs your Pokemon are getting. But in harder playthroughs, it can make or break a game. For example, a Breloom with 0 attack EVs will almost never one-shot Flannery's Torkoal, with return at +5 bulk ups. However, by investing 252 attack EVs, which is the maximum number you can put into any one stat, this becomes a guaranteed one-shot. Natures and IVs complicate this calculation a little bit, but that's the general overview. I also get a slight boost in attack from having the Stone Badge, and another boost to my normal type moves by equipping farmers with a Silk Scarf. So 252 EVs is a bit of an overkill, but I'd rather have as much power as I can going forward. So in order to get these 252 attack EVs, I need to defeat Pokemon that give me attack EVs. Poochyena will give you 1 attack EV every time you knock it out. Using the held item Macho Brace, I can double that number to 2 attack EVs per Poochyena, but that's still 126 Poochyena. So I head to Route 101 and pound out Poochyenas while avoiding all other Pokemon that will give me different EVs. The footage you're seeing here is from Attempt 5. When I level up, you can really see the difference that the attack EVs make, raising my attack by 20 points in just one level. At one point during this grind, I actually find a shiny Wurmple. It's not a grass type though, so I kill it and move on. Anyways, now that brief lesson in EV training is over, I take on Flannery again. My strategy is relatively the same. Only this time, the plan is to get Numel to hit Allstate or State Farm with 1 overheat, because they can both tank one of those hits. This will lower Numel's special attack by 2 stages, meaning that he won't be able to one-shot farmers, even if he manages to connect through all the flashes. The only way this doesn't work is if Numel lands a critical hit overheat, which is definitely a possibility, but it's about all I can do. The battle starts off with Numel hitting a soft magnitude as State Farm uses Sweet Scent. I put the Numel to sleep on the next turn. I hit a second Sweet Scent to make Flash 100% accurate, but Numel wakes up and hits an overheat, bringing State Farm down to 2 HP. For the record, I did pump State Farm full of HP EVs before this fight by fighting Whismurs in Verdanturf Tunnel. Talk about an immediate return on investments. I put the Numel to sleep and switch to Allstate, who starts hitting it with flashes. After 6 flashes, I switch to Farmers and start bulking up. On the 5th bulk up, he hits a magnitude for 2 damage, but it's all over by now. I sweep through Flannery with return. Thank God that's over. The 4th gym badge is mine. The next gym leader is the normal type gym leader, Norman, who happens to be my dad. Before taking him on, I get access to 2 more encounters. In the desert on Route 111, I catch a Cacnea and I name him Liberty, and replace Nationwide the Seedot. Of the 2, Cacturn is a much stronger dark grass type. I also pick up the root fossil and head to Rustboro City to revive it into a Lileep. I name him USAA. These pickups are both pretty useless at my current level cap, but I'm happy that USAA will finally give me a Pokemon that's neutral to flying type attacks. Now it's time for Norman. He starts with a Spinda who loves to teeter dance, but equipping State Farm with a Person Berry means that it's a free turn to use Sleep Powder. I switch to Farmers and start using Bulk Up. Spinda wakes up and hits a teeter dance, but another Person Berry means I go unpunished. I Mac Punch it down and Vigoroth comes out. I bulk up again and then kill Vigoroth with a Mac Punch. Linoon comes out and I predict a Belly Drum, so I go for another bulk up and I kill it with another Mach Punch. Last is Slaking. I know that 1 Mach Punch won't kill it from here, and Slaking might use counter, so I go for another bulk up. On his loafing turn, I hit a Mac Punch, which leaves him with a Sliver. From here, it's just a few more Mac Punches as he heals a few times. Good game, Dad. You suck. Next up is the flying type gym leader, Winona. This is a huge problem. My strongest Pokemon, Farmers, is 4 times weak to flying type moves. Winona also uses a move Aerial Ace, which never misses, so I can't rely on flash shenanigans. So the regular Farmer strategy isn't a great option. While brainstorming, I EV train USAA in attack and HP EVs, and I EV train Liberty in HP and special attack EVs. He evolves into Cacturn. I also catch my final encounter, Atropius, that I name the General. Tropius is a very cool looking Pokemon, but he's pretty weak, so he goes in the box next to Nationwide for now. So after some calculations, I come up with what I think is a pretty surefire strategy. Liberty can learn Growth, and after a few growths, Feint Attack will be able to one-shot Winona's scariest Pokemon, her Dragon Dancing Altaria. The problem is finding a weaker Pokemon to set up on. Winona leads with a Swablu, but it knows Perish Song, which prevents setup. So the plan is to kill the Swablu with Allstate, growl the Pelipper that comes in afterwards, and then start using Growth with Liberty while Leech Seed keeps me healthy. From there, it's a sweep. So the battle starts off great. Nationwide fakes out the Swablu and hits it with Surf as it wastes a turn using Mirror Move. Winona heals the next turn and I get a critical hit, taking out Swablu. Pelipper comes out as expected, and I start growling. This takes forever because Pelipper uses Protect to stall, but after 6 growls, I switch to Liberty to put Pelipper to sleep. I miss Sleep Powder, but hit it on the next turn. I switch to Liberty so that I can set up a Leech Seed, but I miss. A second Leech Seed does hit, but now I want more sleep turns, so I switch back into State Farm as Pelipper wakes up. I miss another Sleep Powder. Then Pelipper hits me with a Supersonic, and I hit myself in confusion. Twice. 3 times. I snap out of confusion, and then I miss a Sleep Powder. I really should have used Sweet Scent on turn 1. Finally, a Sleep Powder hits and Pelipper goes into the red. I switch in Liberty, anticipating that Winona will use her second Hyper Potion, but for some reason, she doesn't. So Pelipper goes down and I'm not at all set up. This sucks. Tropius comes out, so I switch to Allstate, who gets hit by Aerial Ace. Citrus Berry activates, so a non-critical hit won't kill. I decide to growl once as Tropius prepares a Solar Beam. So I switch to State Farm to tank the hit and put it to sleep. I switch back to Allstate and start growling again. After a few growls, Tropius wakes up and sets up the sun. So I switch in State Farm to tank a potential 1-turn Solar Beam. Here I miss another Sleep Powder and finally get fed up and use Sweet Scent. Sleep Powder hits, and then I finally switch to Liberty, who starts setting up growths. After 5 growths, Tropius hits a critical hit, killing Liberty. This is absolutely devastating, and I immediately start to panic. Here I switch in USAA and hit a Sludge Bomb to at least knock out Tropius. But now Skarmory comes out, and I hit it with Confuse Ray. What happens next is basically a Hail Mary. I switch in Geico and pray to God that Skarmory is confused as I Rock Tomb to slower its speed. Somehow that does work. I switch in Allstate and hit a Fake Out. Then I switch to USAA and hit another Confuse Ray. Here I completely forget that Skarmory has Steel Wing and USAA almost goes down. Time for another Hail Mary. I need to set up a Leech Seed with Farmers. Skarmory does hit an Aerial Ace, but Farmers manages to tank it. Then I switch in USAA to tank an Aerial Ace. I switch to State Farm to tank a Steel Wing. And here I try a third Hail Mary and go for a Sleep Powder. This one doesn't work, and State Farm goes down. That's 2 deaths. I bring in USAA to regain some health and then switch to Geico as Winona uses a Hyper Potion. I use Screech, which of course misses, and Geico goes down to a critical hit Aerial Ace. This is a goddamn massacre. Allstate comes out and I regain health with Fake Out. I switch to USAA to tank an Aerial Ace and then back to Allstate for a Steel Wing. I growl so that I can have USAA in on the Altaria. A final switch to USAA takes out Skarmory. Last is Altaria, and she immediately starts Dragon Dancing as I hit a Toxic. A second Dragon Dance allows me to hit a Confuse Ray. Altaria hits an Aerial Ace, leaving me with a Sliver as I hit a Sludge Bomb. Right now, if Altaria hits itself in Confusion next turn, I win. If not, I'm losing one of my 3 remaining Pokemon. I just have to risk it with USAA. So I click Sludge Bomb, and Altaria snaps out of Confusion, killing my 4th teammate. Allstate comes out to finish Altaria off with a Fake Out, winning me the Gym Badge, but man do I not feel good about this. That was awful. I did have a string of bad misses in the middle there, but honestly, I played this one really poorly and made a ton of mistakes. I never should have opened myself up to that many potential critical hits. In preparation, I also made a few critical mistakes. The biggest mistake was that I didn't know that I had access to Ice Beam. The TM for Ice Beam is on C Mauville. I thought it was behind a dive spot, but it turns out that it was completely accessible to me and would have made Altaria significantly easier. Oh well, I guess. At this point, I have to decide whether to restart or soldier on with my 4 remaining Pokemon. Good news is that Farmers the Breloom did make it out in one piece. Bad news is that there are a few fights coming up that I was really relying on Crawdilly for. I do decide to keep going though. I EV train Nationwide in special attack and speed as she evolves first into a Nuzleaf and then with the help of a Leaf Stone into a Shiftry. I also EV train the General in special attack and HP. Before I take on the Psychic type gym leaders, Tate and Liza, I have to do a bunch of Team Magma and Aqua stuff. Normally I'd skip the evil team stuff, but Maxie has a Crobat, which is incredibly fast and incredibly strong, making this fight incredibly scary. Any strategy I could come up with is susceptible to a critical hit, so I just have to risk it. Farmers sets up a Bulk Up as Maxie's Mightyena uses Scary Face. He hits me with a takedown as I use another Bulk Up. He then gives me a free attack boost with Swagger as a Person Berry cures my confusion, and I go for a third Bulk Up. A Mach Punch takes care of Mightyena. Crobat comes out, and it'll just be faster than me, so I click Return and hold my breath. Wing Attack comes out, thankfully doesn't crit, and I counter with Return. Camera Up comes out, so I switch to Allstate and knock it out with 2 surfs. That was lucky. Now it's time to take on Tate and Liza, but compared to Winona, they're a cakewalk. I lead with Allstate and Nationwide. After a single growth, Nationwide can one-shot all of their Pokemon. So I fake out the Xatu and set up a growth. Claydol hits a pretty hard Earthquake, but I can survive a few more of those. I take out Xatu with Feint Attack, and Allstate does some baby damage with Surf as Solrock comes in. Claydol hits another Earthquake and manages to take a crit on Allstate. I'm at risk to another critical hit Earthquake, so I switch out Allstate for the General and take out the Solrock. Lunatone only knows Psychic as an attacking move, so I take out Claydol the next turn. Magical Leaf plus Feint Attack is enough to take out Lunatone, winning me an easy 7th badge. Next up is more Team Magma, Team Aqua stuff, including a rematch with Maxie and his Crobat. This time, it's a double battle against Maxie and his admin with Steven Stone on my side. I'm a little worried because computer partners can be a nightmare to deal with. Fortunately, Steven and his Metang are total bros. I start with Lombre to take the Intimidate and then switch in Breloom, who gets a free attack boost from Swagger after a Person Berry cures my confusion. I knock out Camera Up with Return, and on the next turn, I knock out Golbat. Now there's 2 Mightyanas. I knock out the weaker one so that Maxie's Pokemon are all alone. Maxie finally decides to go for another Swagger, so on the next turn, I switch to Allstate as Metang knocks out the Mightyana. Crobat is out, but a Psychic Ice Beam combo takes it out. Lastly, Camera Up falls to a Psychic Surf combo. Steven is just such a bro. He also gives me the HM for Dive, so I'm finally able to get a Water Stone and evolve Allstate into his final beautiful form. Next is a fight with Archie, who also has a Crobat, but this goes exactly the same as the first Maxie battle. I hate gambling on no crit from Crobat, but it does work out. After fast forwarding through the Weather Wars, it's time to take on Juan, who straight up does nothing the entire time that 3 legendary Pokemon are waging war a mere 6 tiles away from his gym. It should come as no surprise that the Water-type gym is pretty easy. He starts with Love Disc and I set up Bulk Up. Not wanting to deal with Attract, I go for a quick kill with Mach Punch. Celio comes out and goes down to a Mach Punch. Kingdra, his ace, comes out and tries to set up with Double Team, but I hit it with a Return. I go for another Bulk Up as he rests. 2 more Mach Punches take it out as he just tries to do more Double Teams. Lastly, Return one-shots the Whiscash and Mach Punch one-shots the Crawdaunt. What an underwhelming 8th gym badge. With all 8 gym badges, it's time to head to Victory Road and take on the Elite Four. Here the level cap is equal to the strongest Pokemon of the last Elite Four member, but does not include the champion Wallace. Drake has a Salamence at level 55, so I train up my team of 4 and get ready for the final challenge. First is Sydney, the Dark-type trainer. And let's not sugarcoat it, this dude is a total joke. 1 Bulk Up with Farmers to compensate for the Intimidate attack drop makes all his Pokemon a one-shot with Brick Break. Next is Phoebe, the Ghost-type trainer. I start with Nationwide and set up a growth while her Dusclops uses Protect. All her Pokemon are one-shots by Feint Attack with the exception of Sableye, who goes down soon after. 2 down, and we haven't even broken a sweat. Things are going well. Third is Glacia, the Ice-type trainer, and all of her Pokemon also get one-shot by Brick Break after a single Bulk Up from Farmers. Okay, the 4th Elite Four member is actually a bit scary. Drake and his Dragon types all have moves that make it a bit harder to do the Bulk Up strategy, but it's nothing an Ice Beam tech can't handle. Drake leads Shelgon, and after a Protect, Allstate takes it out with a single Ice Beam. Altaria comes out, wastes time Dragon Dancing, and then goes down to an Ice Beam. Kingdra comes out, and now things get a little more difficult. I switch to Nationwide as Kingdra sets up a Dragon Dance. I use Growth as Kingdra uses Smokescreen, which is removed with a White Herb. Next turn, Kingdra hits a critical hit Body Slam as I go for a second Growth. Well, switch out time, I guess. I go to Allstate, hit a Fake Out, and then miss an Ice Beam as Kingdra uses Smokescreen. Kingdra goes for another Dragon Dance, and I hit Ice Beam, which happens to freeze him. I switch out to the General, Growth once, and hit a Magical Leaf. Kingdra full restores as I hit another Magical Leaf. We trade Body Slams and Magical Leafs, leaving the General with 19 HP and Kingdra going down. Flygon comes out. Oh, hey, that's me. I switch to Allstate, and Flygon hits a Dragon Breath, paralyzing Allstate. Not great, Flygon. Come on, man. An Earthquake comes out, and thankfully I connect with an Ice Beam for a one-shot. Last is Salamence, who does scary damage with Dragon Claw and then goes down to an Ice Beam. Honestly, I probably would have lost if Kingdra hadn't gotten frozen. I have no idea what I was going to do. That was pretty lucky. Last is the champion Wallace. And you might think that this should be pretty easy since Wallace focuses on water types, but Wallace has a very strong, very fast Tentacruel that can probably one-shot my whole team with a critical hit Sludge Bomb. Many of his other Pokemon also know Ice-type moves, so this battle is by no means free. But I do have a plan. Wallace leads with Wailord, who has Blizzard, Double Edge, and Water Spout. The plan is to stall out Wailord with Allstate until it runs out of Blizzard PP, and then switch to Nationwide and set up growths. With the Dynamo Badge boost to his speed, he should be able to just ever so slightly outspeed Tentacruel. Things go pretty well with Nationwide lowering Wailord's attack stat with Growl as it tries to bait out Blizzards. At one point I do get frozen, Karma I guess, but it's not a huge deal since Wailord kindly sets up Rain, giving Allstate some free health from her Rain Dish ability. I also make sure to hit Wailord to about half health so that his Water Spouts are weaker. Once the Blizzards are gone, I eventually make my way to Nationwide and start setting up growths. I need a full 6 to one-shot Tentacruel, who is a special defensive tank. Wailord hits a few soft double edges, but on the third growth he gets a critical hit, which bypasses the drops from Growl and knocks out Shiftry. That's really unfortunate. I bring in Farmers and start setting up Bulk Up using Leech Seed to keep me healthy. Farmers will be slower than Tentacruel, so yet again we have to avoid a critical hit. After I'm comfortably set up, Return knocks out Wailord and Milotic comes out. She actually outspeeds me here, which I wasn't really expecting, and hits me with a Toxic. Mach Punch probably would have taken it out, so I probably should have done that instead. Return kills Milotic, but now Farmers is on a timer. Tentacruel comes out and I roll the dice one last time. An Ice Beam comes out and doesn't crit, as I counter with a Return, which ironically does crit, not that it necessarily mattered. Next is Whiscash, who goes down to a single Return. Next is Ludicolo, who will go down to a Return, but then Farmers will succumb to Toxic the next turn. Since this is the last fight, that's not a huge deal, but before that I go to check the stats on the General to make sure he can take the Gyarados waiting in the back. But instead of checking his stats, I accidentally just switch him in. Oops. This ends up being fine though, because I just set up growths as Ludicolo starts setting up double teams. What this asshole doesn't know is that I have Magical Leaf, which never misses. So after 6 growths and recovering health with Synthesis, I knock out Ludicolo with Magical Leaf. Last is the Gyarados, who hits a wet fart of a Surf and goes down to a Magical Leaf, winning me the match and the run. Well, that was insane. Definitely the hardest Nuzlocke challenge that I've done, but I had a ton of fun. There were so many fights that pushed me to brainstorm crazy strategies and think on my feet. I definitely choked pretty hard on the Winona fight, and keeping Lileep alive would have made some of the later fights a lot less risky. But overall, I'm pretty proud of how I problem solved my way through this incredibly tough challenge. If you enjoyed watching this, please like the video and subscribe. And comment down below if you think you have a strategy that would have made some of those battles easier. Let me know what I did wrong. The plan for my next video is to do a hard Nuzlocke playthrough of Heart Gold using only Headbutt Pokemon. So until then, thanks for watching.